Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hey, this is Matt with Deep Woods Paranormal. Welcome back to another Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Bigfoot. And where do I even start with my Bigfoot experiences? My Bigfoot experiences basically started back about 7 years ago. I was actually doing ghost tours, believe it or not. Didn't really believe in Bigfoot. Just thought they were a story people told so that the kids would come in and not be playing out in the forest past, dark. Little did I know they're real. So I was giving a tour. Believe it or not, this happened on Halloween night. I had about 30 people in the back of the car. And essentially I was pretty much just giving my spiel, talking about safety, talking about everybody staying together. And one of the girls to my left says, "Hey, Matt, somebody threw a rock at me." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, okay, some teenager. This is out in the middle of Orange County, believe it or not. Up in the mountains up there. It's very rural, not a whole lot of homes around. Just very big open space land with, believe it or not, there's a place called Overrun Lake up in that area. This is called Black Star Canyon. If you're familiar with Black Star Canyon, you'll know what I'm talking about. I mean, a UFO could come down and basically land in front of you, and a bunch of aliens could get out, and I wouldn't be surprised. So anyways, like I said, Black Star Canyon is a very paranormally charged place. It has earthquake faults all throughout it. The canyons were probably created by that. Also, it has, during the winter, when it does rain a lot, it does have its own running water. And then underneath the ground as well, for those people who believe that running water give off energy, it does have underground streams underneath it as well. And so let's get back to my Bigfoot encounter. So this basically started after essentially the girls had reported to me a couple of times somebody was throwing rocks at them. And I said, well, were they hitting you with them? And they said, no, They were basically landing at our feet or around us. And I said, okay. I grabbed the 5 biggest guys out of about 30 people, this group of 30 people, biggest tour I ever took. So essentially we went over to where the barbed wire fence is, and this is basically open land. There's a barbed wire fence, and it's just private property over there. It's just as far as you can see, there's just open land with weeds and stuff and trees, oak trees and stuff that are just overgrown. Kind of reminds me of Texas a little bit. So anyways, I'm sitting there and, I'm looking around with my minor light, and I start scanning from the left over to the right. I get about 75 degrees to my right, starting from left to right. And there's this huge, massive, silvery gray haired covered thing standing there staring at us. And I just kind of shook my head. And at that point, it became a staring contest. And the other guys with me finally snapped me out of it. They're like, Matt, you got to go get a camera. Did you bring a camera? Did you bring something to document paranormal activity with? Well, I normally have some kind of kit with me at all times. I used to carry a ghost hunting kit, which consisted of, just a camera, a video camera, a K2 usually, an audio recorder. I always had that stuff with me wherever I went. So anyways, I went back and grabbed the camera. I had a little Cool Pix, which I still have today, believe it or not. But it's a small camera. It's not meant, the flash was small. It's not a professional camera. It's not meant to shoot more than about 10 or 15 feet away. This thing was probably 30 feet away. And I flipped the flash up, and this thing's staring at us, and I snapped the picture, and this thing squinted and shook its head, and I thought we were in serious trouble. I'm like, oh my God, this thing's going to come over here and rip us to pieces. It growled, and it scared the living Jesus out of all of us. And so, stupidly, I took another picture, and it grunted again. It kind of grunted, and then it just kind of stood there, and this thing was massive. I mean, it had to be pushing 13, 14 feet tall. The head of the thing was like a giant watermelon. The arms, I'm about 6'2", pretty close to 300 pounds. And this thing's arms were the width of my torso, the width of my body without my arms. And, from what I could see. And the chest on the thing must have been 4 or 5 feet wide. I mean, this thing was just massive. And I was just sitting there, and we're just, again, having a staring contest. And I said, you know what? Doesn't it know we can't see it? And it finally, about a second later, it walks over behind this tree. And this tree must have had it's an oak tree, a smaller oak tree, but it still must have had about a 6-inch diameter. And basically, it wraps both hands around the trunk of the tree and stands there. And I'm like, okay, we're all just staring at it. I'm still spotlighting it with my little miner's light. It wasn't quite dark, but it wasn't light out either. It was kind of dusk, so you could see it without a flashlight. But the flashlight just, made it super clear. And then it just let go and walked behind. It stomped away. I mean, when it walked, it vibrated the ground, and it was 30 feet away. Boom, 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 and then it went over behind some trees, and we heard some branches being snapped and stuff. But I mean, I was shocked. I'm sure I had to pick my jaw up off of the ground after that. That was crazy. I had never seen a Bigfoot before. I never really believed in them. I never thought they were real. I just thought they were something somebody made up. But after that, I started researching them. I started figuring out, okay, I was so excited when I got home. My wife's like, my wife doesn't believe in that yet because she hasn't had an encounter. And that's what I always tell everybody. If you haven't had an encounter, it doesn't matter if it's Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs, whatever it be. If you haven't experienced it, I don't expect you to believe in it. I want you to have your own experience. So anyways, I'm super excited about it. I'm going 100 miles a minute, and she's just rolling her eyes. And she's unfortunately not here to defend herself. She had to work tonight. But anyways, so I started researching them. I started figuring out, okay, I started looking around for prints, and I started looking for different signs of them, tree structures and stuff like that. Up there's not a lot of trees, that basically to bend over. There's a lot of oak trees and stuff, but they're solid. I mean, if you bend them a little bit, they'll snap. But it had sent me back, and I started looking through my other odd experiences I had up there at Black Star Canyon. My very first experience now was probably 2 or 3 years before that, maybe a few more years before that, where we saw this huge black thing staying on the side of the road. And there was a paved road at that point. This is this road basically goes from Orange County to Riverside, and then kind of goes out all over the hills of Riverside in Orange County. It's just a fire access road. It's been closed to people driving through for years when they put the Ortega Highway through and stuff. Anyways, so I started doing research into these guys, and the more research I did, the more I started thinking back. I'm like, okay, that very first sighting I believe was this time. There was something about 3 or 4 feet, just somebody would look like somebody was just hunched down, and we got within about 20 feet of it. It was just a silhouette, just a black shadow, and it stood up, and it had to be at least 10 feet tall. And it literally, if you took a single lane highway each way, and you tried to walk 3-step it like this thing did, I mean, it was about 4 or 5 feet off the road. It literally stepped into almost the middle of the road, and then basically stepped about halfway across that road, and then stepped across, 5 or 6 feet across after that, and then basically disappeared behind a large oak tree. And I just thought that was the largest shadow person I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen one that tall before, but I was like, that's cool. So giving tours about 3 or 4 years later, I had about 6 people with me, and we were walking up around the corner on this dirt road going up to where the old mines are. A little back history on Black Star Canyon. They used to mine low-grade coal up there, and unfortunately there's been a lot of tragedy up there. Unfortunately, a lot of the miners died in a fire back in the day. It burnt through most of the homes that were in the canyon and stuff like that, but that's another story. That's another story for Black Star Canyon. That's basically possibly who could be haunting Black Star Canyon, but or one of the entities. Anyways, so we're walking up around this corner, and there's a very large oak tree. It must have been almost 2 feet in diameter. It's pretty old. And all of a sudden we hear bang, bang, bang. I'm like, what the hell? I thought it sounded like a gunshot. It sounded like somebody took a shotgun and was shooting at us, real close. So we were sitting there, and I'm looking at me. I'm going, okay. I'm checking my chest. I'm checking my arms. I'm like looking for blood. I'm like, okay, I was not hit. And I turned around and I asked the people behind me on the tour, is everybody okay? Nobody got hit. And after I said that, there was bang, bang, bang. Again, 3 more knocks. Well, now they sounded like knocks to me. I'm like, wait, that sounds like somebody's hitting the tree or hitting something, wood together. Because it didn't sound like the first ones. The first ones were very loud and very distinct. The second ones weren't as loud, and they sounded more woodsy than the first ones. So anyways, that was pretty much my second encounter before I had the sighting. Fast forwarding ahead, as I got more into the research, I really knew Black Star Canyon like the back of my hand. I was going up there between 2 and 5 or 6 nights a week. That was like my second home. The more I did the research, the more I kind of figured out where they were migrating from and to, and how they were using the paths. Essentially, they were off to the left side of the road. They were using a paved, basically they were walking on rocks where the little creek was, or the river when it actually rained. They were using that kind of like as a highway. So I thought to myself, okay. So I figured out that if I kind of kept my eye over there, I'd start to see some things. One of the things I found was a old eucalyptus tree that was probably, the diameter of this tree must have been at least a foot. It was big. And this tree was literally snapped off about 12 feet high, maybe 13, 14 feet high, right next to the creek. And as I started to look, I started seeing more tree branches that had been snapped. Not only branches, but trees themselves being snapped. So also found an old oak tree that had actually been pulled completely up out of the ground and put into another tree between some branches about, I would say 15, 20 feet in the air. I have no idea what did that or how it could have been done, but I know a human didn't do that. You would need a crane to do that. So that just didn't make a lot of sense to me. So let me get back to my experiences here. So my next cool experience, let's put it this way, whenever you go up to Black Star, you always feel like you're being watched. But my next actual sighting was when I was walking up past where we heard the tree knocks. It was about a quarter mile up higher up into the canyon, right where it becomes the Cleveland National Forest. There's about 7 or 8 oak trees that kind of grow over the path. And I believe someone actually was hung from one of those trees. So again, going back into the ghost hunting. But we always see apparitions in that area. But that was where I was. I was sitting there trying to do an EVP session, and I heard a growl. And I'm thinking, okay, there's a mountain lion up here. I've actually seen mountain lions jump those barbed wire fences before and cross across the road and go down the other way. So as we're sitting there, as I'm sitting there by myself, and most of the time I went up there between 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. So there wasn't anybody there. I was by myself in this canyon with very little cell reception. And yeah, people told me, you're nuts. Why did you go up there? But I just enjoyed it up there. I never felt threatened. Well, until this encounter. Never felt threatened, never felt scared. So anyways, in the middle of EP session, I hear a growl. And basically, it came from my right. So I'm looking around, I'm looking for the mountain lion. I'm thinking, okay, there's some kind of mountain lion up here. And then all of a sudden, I hear another growl come from the other side. So I walk across, I'm looking at the other side. I'm keeping an eye behind me just to make sure that nothing comes up behind me. And as I'm sitting there, one of the trees, well, not one of the trees, but the big bushes, maybe 5 or 6 feet wide, maybe a little bit wider, and probably not more than about 6 feet tall. This tree just starts to rustle back and forth like something's shaking it. And I'm sitting there going, what the hell? And then I see eye shine. I'm like, wait a minute. And it's about my height. Like I said, I'm 6'2". So, but it slopes down back there. So I had another foot, maybe a foot and a half. So this thing's at least between 6 and 8 feet, maybe, where the eye shine was. Not the top of the head, but the eye shine. And it was red. I'm like, okay, what in the world? And I'm sitting there watching this thing shake the tree back and forth. And I'm just going, okay, what is going on here? And then I realized, oh, it's a Bigfoot. And as I'm sitting there, I had my video camera. And unfortunately, it was just, it was bright enough for me to see. And my night vision was established by then. But the camera, unfortunately, this thing was about 15 feet away. You could hear the bush going back and forth. You can hear me reacting, but it was just I didn't have enough IR light to actually, or regular light to make it, so the camera could actually see. So essentially, this thing happened. This goes back and forth for about 30 seconds, and then it growls at me. I think it was trying to scare me out of there, and then I think it gave up, and it just darted to its left, my right, its left. Up again where the creek was. It ran up towards the left and then disappeared. And I videotaped this. I'm like, I got this on camera. I was so excited. Got home. Oh, crap. It's dark. I can't see it. So anyways, I'm thinking I just had a cool night. I just had something really exciting happen. I was all excited. Put the camera away. Put the audio recorder away. Start walking back down the path. So I get about, I don't know, a couple hundred feet down the path. And the hills up there kind of slope down, and the path winds through the hills. But this hill comes down, so it basically levels out to about 4 or 5 feet. So it kind of slopes down, where somebody could basically sit there or whatever. And on this little ledge, I look over. I just out of the corner of my left eye, I caught what looked like red eyes, and this thing had to be 5 or 6 feet wide, crouched down, maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. Just as a big red blob. Black blob with red eyes looking at me. And I quickly sped up. My heart was going about 1,000,000 miles an hour. I got about 5 or 6 steps ahead, back down the path. When I finally realized I need to turn around and face this thing and look and see if it, what it is. And I turned around and looked, and it was gone. This thing was about 2 feet away from me. It could have easily just reached out and grabbed me and done whatever it wanted to me. And man, I tell you what, that thing, that scared the living bejesus out of me. Not a lot scares me at the paranormal, but that was interesting. It took me about 2 or 3 months to get back up there. And when I did, it was just not the same. I was a little more afraid than I had ever been. Another story from another time. I was up there. I think I was doing some Bigfoot research, and I always carried my audio recorder, video recorder with me, and I had a big flashlight. This flashlight had about 2,000 lumens, so it was like a headlight. So I'm walking back out, and as you walk back out of the canyon, you can look up Black Star Canyon. You'll be able to see it. Look at where the gate is. But you walk out, and to the left, there's a big slope that goes up about vertically about 45 degrees, about maybe 20 feet up. and then it basically comes around to almost like a cliff face, and then basically you can park right out there, and then it kind of slopes back down. There's an old ranch area there. You can still see the old posts, the old pens were for the horses and stuff and the cows. But I was just walking out of the gate, and I just kept feeling like I was being watched. So I essentially turned the flashlight on, and I started scanning across from right to left, and I got to about 45-degree angle looking up a path, actually, behind the barbed wire and stuff. It was probably at least 40 or 50 feet away. And I didn't mean to, but I spotlighted a Bigfoot. And this must have been maybe a juvenile. I don't know what it was doing. Maybe it was just sitting there watching to make sure that, I didn't disrupt anything, or maybe it was protecting the family group. I don't know what it was doing. But it just stood there and stared at me as I spotlighted it. I'm sure it wasn't very happy about being spotlighted and having light in his eyes. But it just stood there. And if you've ever seen the Patterson-Gimlin film, this is how I know that is probably real. It did exactly the same thing. It literally turned around. It did one gape and basically did a whole upper body turn as it gaped. It couldn't turn its head. It had to actually turn its whole upper body towards me, looked at me, turned back, and then took about 3 more steps and went across about 30 feet. It went across this area very quickly, and it was only about 6 feet tall. I don't think it was more than 6 feet tall, maybe 7 feet max. But this thing just, boom, gone. And it was brown. It was covered in brown hair. But yeah, that was really cool. I can go on with this forever. So another cool experience I had was at one of our clients' house up here in Texas, believe it or not. It was a Dave sighting. And we had been investigating his location for Bigfoots for about a year. And we were sitting at the bench just, on his property looking out into the woods. And the Bigfoots actually come down into his property. I think they're crossing across the forest, across the road there, right in the back of his property. And essentially, so that's where we were set up. And we were sitting having lunch or something, and I had actually a pair of binoculars. And so I look up and I'm like, wait a minute. That's supposed to be your little pathway up there. And it's like a road that the client had carved out. And I'm sitting there going, wait, why is there a tree in the middle of that path? And I just couldn't understand why that was there. So I took the binoculars and I started zooming in, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a Bigfoot. And I could see this thing clearly. So I started zooming in, and I started looking at the face, and it looked just like almost like an ape or a monkey or whatever. It had, the actual regular skin with no fur all around the mouth. It looked like it had like monkeys or gorillas' lips or orangutan or whatever you want to call it. And it had its leg. I think I caught it mid-stride, because it literally was like it put its arms up like it was trying, in different directions, like it was trying to look like a tree, but the legs were spread. That's what caught my attention. And the face was turned towards me. So as I started zooming in, I could kind of see the hair around the face, but the eyes were insane. I mean, the eyes were like the size of baseballs, and the pupil must have been the size of at least $50. And this one was big. This one was probably, I would have to guess, maybe it was pushing at least 10 feet, maybe 11 or 12 feet tall. It was big. And it was covering, if there was a single-lane highway, it was covering most of it, a good portion of that, maybe 3/4 of that. And it was standing almost literally in the middle of the road with its legs spread, 1 foot in front of the back, almost like in a straight line. So I'm sitting there going, I'm just like dumbfounded. I'm like, damn, this is the first time I've ever had a clear view of their face. But the client always had told me that, when he had seen them during the day, some of them, not all of them, but some of them looked like they were wearing sunglasses. And I'm like, okay, that's really strange. Another person that I follow came up with a really interesting theory. This could explain the red eyes, is that they have bioluminescence around their eyes. And that's why their eyes look red. But when you catch them on camera, which we've done multiple times, if you follow us on YouTube, you'll see our some of our videos. Joe's place, who's one of our clients, will probably be posted on there in the next little while. But oh my God, I mean, just seeing those eyes, I mean, that large of eyes, it was just crazy. So it almost makes me wonder if they have some kind of film that comes down, or like a lens that actually does kind of come down over their eyes, like an alligator or a shark or whatever, during the day, to allow them to have like so it doesn't hurt their eyes. But yeah, that was just a really cool experience. I have a lot more. I've had, I don't know how many experiences and sightings and stuff over the years, but now, these are just some of my best ones. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you listening to my Bigfoot stories. Like I said, if you follow us on YouTube, we will be posting quite a bit of stuff on Bigfoots, ghosts, demons, UFOs, everything paranormal. We will be having our webisodes come out onto our YouTube channel here. The link is if you're on our Buzzsprout account, it'll be on the bottom, and I'll put our YouTube channel on the bottom of this link. So anyways, again, thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate your support. Please like this. And if you go to our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe as well, because we're going to have some really cool content coming out. We're about to do a really cool investigation here this weekend. It's a 3-day investigation. I can't talk about it because the owner sworn me to secrecy, but I can at least tell you about the investigation. So, again, thank you guys so much for listening. You guys have a great day, and we appreciate your support.
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.